Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by lineups.com. Nate and Josh back with you guys on a Monday, just 3 NBA games. It's going to be a little bit of a weird start to the week here in the NBA with some NBA Cup stuff coming up. But we've got some looks here with some best bets, including a couple futures, got player props. We're mixing it up, having a little bit of fun in this one to help you guys find some value. Make sure to subscribe to that channel. We're bringing you this one episode chock full of everything moving forward each and every weekday. So subscribe, and we will be here all season. Nate, let's go ahead, jump right into this first game. There's value in this game. You might not like it if you're a casual here, but I think you can find some ways to bet on Kings and Pacers.
Yeah, and this is the one of the 3 games that doesn't have somebody who's going to the Cup in those games later this week, right? So, it's just concentrating on this one. Then you get a little mini break if you're a regular NBA team. Pacers minus 3.5 is where I got it, but up to 4 now as the market agrees that the Kings, kind of an outlier win, because speaking of that, I mean, the Heat, they beat the Heat on Saturday. Maybe the Heat were looking ahead to the Cup. It was also a Levine sanity game in terms of him just going off for 40 plus. The 3-point discrepancy was the big reason the Kings won that one. Pacers are a top 10 3-point defense. Also, like, a really good team getting to the line. The biggest issue for the Pacers has been defending centers, rebounding, right? Well, the Kings are dead last in rebound rate in their last 5. And Pacers now coming off extra rest since Friday, where they do in the last 3 here have a 123 offensive rating, shooting 42%. So the offense is not a problem, right? It's defending those areas that could be a problem against other teams, against teams like Cleveland and Denver, who they lost to recently, but apparently not against the Chicago Bulls, right? I mean, they shut them down the last 2 times they faced this Bulls offense, which is struggling against everybody. But if you want to think of it that way, this is now Bulls West coming to town, right? It's just the Levine DeRozan show with no Schroeder, maybe no Keegan Murray here in this one. I think the Pacers, they just need a couple of wins for like morale to string some stuff together. And the Kings before that Heat game had lost 5 in a row, most of them by sizable margin.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I still don't trust either of these teams. But if you take the Pacers at home in a spot, then yeah, that's all that you're really looking at in that one. Let me go to this Timberwolves and Suns game and just talk about Mark Will for a minute. I mean, I do think he's good for the points. I thought this might get up a point or two, and Dillon Brooks is questionable. I actually don't really know if that will impact Mark Williams' lines at all, but at the most, this is going to 13.5 if Dillon Brooks is ruled out. And I like Mark Will against the Timberwolves strictly because the Timberwolves and Rudy Gobert are going to do everything they can to defend inside 5 feet at the rim. They're not going to do everything they can to defend extended paint area stuff. And Mark Williams, amongst centers, is in the top 5, 95th percentile, in terms of field goal attempts from the non inside the paint, the restricted area of the paint. So he's shooting like basically he's scoring 30% of his points from the paint that's not right next to the rim. That it seems like a really weird trivia thing, but there's like 4 shot attempts for this dude coming from that area. That's massive against Rudy Gobert, who we know just wants to drop all the way until his hands are basically at the rim, so that he's just protecting against lobs and anybody trying to get anything at the rim. Mark Williams is a skilled center that doesn't necessarily need to do that, has some ball skills as well to be able to drive and then stop from there with a little, I guess you'll call it teardrop. It's also sometimes a baby hook for him, but this is just a sort of like really minuscule little edge that you can find when the market might think, oh, Mark Williams isn't going to be able to score because it is Rudy Gobert and this defense down low for the Timberwolves. There's a little bit of an outlier for him in how he scores. That really helps us get there. I'm still not going to take them to beat this Minnesota team, who does sometimes play with its food. I think in this last game that they played against them, they only won. They actually lost right to the Suns in this last one, and that one was on the road for Minnesota. This one they come back at home. Seems like a pretty nice spot for them. 9.5 indicates like there is respect for Phoenix in the market, but I think no Dillon Brooks is going to be as big as it could be for anybody else that's on this team right now. So if he's out, then yeah, this 9.5 could easily get to like 12.
Yeah, and no Devin Booker you have to mention as well.
Well, of
right?
course, we should start with that.
Yeah,
he's been out a little bit.
Yeah, it is a smackback spot for the Wolves, right? After they had kind of an embarrassing collapse against the Suns the last time they faced this team. Now Suns extremely shorthanded, looking ahead to the Cup matchup on Wednesday. Makes sense that the Wolves would win. With Mark Williams, yeah, it's always like you got to analyze the schedule because they are absolutely treating this guy like Mr. Glass with his minutes restrictions and stuff. But they only played 2 games last week, Monday and Friday. So we're talking about his 3rd game in a 7-day stretch now. Should be good to go, even with the the cup on the
That was a big
horizon,
part of
I
it.
should
Yeah.
say. And speaking
Yeah.
of the cup, why not just take the best team in the NBA? In fact, the best team ever by point differential through 23 games, the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I know they've been beating up on some bad teams, playing who's on the schedule, but I think this team is just on a mission. They're on a revenge tour, even though they won the title somehow. They're just pissed off about everything. And this is where you get that redemption, right? Because they absolutely flopped in the cup final last year, shot 5 for 32 from three. It was low-key embarrassing on the big stage. Bunch of young guys who were not, maybe people at that point said, like, look, they're not ready for the big stage. They're not going to win the title. They don't have playoff experience. Now they do. And now they want to prove it to everybody by laying the smackdown in the cup. It's not the hardest field to think about here. I mean, they're almost certainly going to beat the Suns here in this next opportunity. They're minus 15. Then you get the Spurs, maybe in Wemby's like first game back, if he is able to come back here. I don't know if he's going to be like firing all cylinders, because Wemby would have to just be totally dominant to beat this Thunder machine. But either way, I mean, Spurs still susceptible to the mid-range, to things that Shea will do. Or you beat the Lakers. And yes, Luka has been a bit of a kryptonite for this defense, but the last three that they've cared about against the Lakers, 3-0, it's a plus 53 margin. There's defensive weak links everywhere to pick at if you're the Thunder. And then you look at who's coming out of the East, like the Knicks or the Magic or something. It's not scaring you. But you're more looking at like, how much do the Thunder care about this thing? And they're tipping their hand a little bit because they basically rested SGA, Joe, Caruso, and Dort in their last game here on Sunday. And in fact, a couple games for Caruso and Dort. They might get Isaiah Hartenstein back in a couple weeks, or like next week for the Cup semifinals. That would certainly be helpful, but they're just so deep. They're so versatile. They have everything. The defense is incredible. I don't know what else to say. I mean, the only other thing to think about is like, do you want to hedge with SGA as Cup MVP? Hedge/double down, I would consider it. Because most likely he's going to be the Cup MVP. You do get another 20 cents on the dollar rather than just them to win the Cup. And it's a little more dicey than it is for a playoff series, right? Because it's just one game. Like, what if Chet has 35 and 7 blocks in the Cup final, and then he gets the Cup MVP rather than what you would expect, which is SGA.
Yeah, I don't know how it seems like they are taking into consideration everything else. So there's an NBA Cup Finals MVP in addition to the NBA
I think it's
Cup
the
MVP?
Cup tournament MVP.
Yeah, it is. It's
I think the finals will be heavily weighted.
Okay, yeah, I still think as heavily weighted as the finals are, you need to be pretty much neck and neck going into the finals for it to really be a tiebreaker for that in that sense. So like, it's probably just SGA and or whoever wins if someone beats them. But I mean, this team's lost one game, dude. I was even thinking to myself, like, okay, well, they're going for 74, right? They're going for 74, right? The 73 is the win total that the Dubs hit. So 74 would just climb over with one. And then, like, if you want to look at it and be like, well, they're not going to try that hard everywhere because they just should take a page from the Dubs book and not go for the big wins, because that's why the Dubs lost the championship. The Dubs lost the championship because Draymond Green kicked LeBron James in the balls. That's why they lost the championship. The Thunder are going to be fine all the way through. They have 19 different guys they could play at any given time, and we're like, that guy's really good. So yeah, you ran out of superlatives, but like, there's probably a few more we could have found somewhere. We'll leave it at that for now. Cleveland, I've been trashing them a bunch. I'm starting to believe in them more than I am the Knicks, and I'm really believing in Kenny Atkinson and what he's doing with the lineups. And I just think they have a lot more weapons this year than I may have given them credit for, specifically on defense, and the way that like guys like Lonzo Ball and even DeAndre Hunter to a degree are helping out on defense more than I really took into consideration. That's what this is really about for them, and just taking a future for the best bet, because I don't really feel like betting on anybody else on the night to win or lose here on this Monday night in the NBA. But yeah, for them now, like with their defense rising up, they haven't even been with Jared Allen. They haven't been at full strength. And I've just watched guys like Jalen Tyson come in and provide that wing defense that I was like, who's guarding your best player, man? Who's guarding your other guy? Well, they're starting to like build the clear like identity as a team that's like going to allow certain spot ups to guys. They're going to be that team that chooses who they want to shoot in a way, right? They're just going to force the ball out of the hands of the guys that they can. Once they get to the Western Conference, that doesn't matter. There's just going to be teams with too many guys to be able to force the ball into a weak spot, right? There's never going to work against the Thunder, obviously. But when you talk about even like the Knicks, like if you get to the playoffs and you put the ball in Josh Hart's hands and that's who it is, or even Deuce McBride or even Jordan Clarkson, just like get it out of Cat and Jalen Brunson's hands, and even Mikal, I'm starting to trust more too. But that's really what I'm looking at here. And by the way, I'm not afraid of the Southeast Conference anymore. I don't really care much about that of the division, rather about that division too much. I'm really looking at like the Cavs and the Knicks here at this point as teams I do see head and shoulders above the rest of the East. And when you put them against that, that's really what I start to look at when I make this play here for the future is what happens when the Cavs meet a team like the Knicks in the playoffs. I think they're good with everybody else, especially because I don't even think Giannis will be on the Bucks. Of course, he could swing all of that if he ends up on a different Eastern Conference team. Then this bet obviously becomes really tough to back. But with that, what if he ends up on the Cavs? No, he's not ending up on the Cavs. But either way, for the Cavs, like if that happened, okay, maybe I've taken the Knicks now. But at this moment in time, with all that in the air, I still think you put them in a series against them, and now they have guys to be. They have more than one guy to throw at Jalen Brunson, for example. They have a handful of guys down low. Thomas Bryant isn't going to be a bad defender when he's needed for 7 minutes or 6 minutes, or even just a 3-minute burst in the playoffs, right? Like I would still trust him enough in that time that they've got some depth down there. I think they just have it more than the Knicks right now.
It's probably the right time of the market to take the Cavs, right? I mean, it probably won't get any lower than this unless Giannis does go to a team like you're saying, like the Hawks, and they somehow keep Jalen Johnson and then they look like a super team or something like that. That would just totally flip the Eastern Conference. Curious, what are my Celtics odds? Right? With Tatum coming back potentially in March. I mean, they're already looking good.
Didn't look at those. The problem would be that they need Tatum to come back and be Tatum of last year and the year before, and I'm not sure that he's going to be able to just jump right into that. So not too concerned about that.
Point is, it's a long season, so I see where your head is at, saying like Cavs, this is the bottom of the market for them potentially. Now you could invest in them starting to peak once they actually get guys back, get guys healthy, and dispel that playoff narrative. Player props and Maxime Raynaud. You may not be familiar with the young Frenchman here out of Stanford, but he's starting to get a lot of playing time. Nick Clifford too, because I think Zach Lowe joked on his podcast, like somebody distract Vivek, the Kings owner, for like a couple of years, make him like look the other way so he stops meddling with this team and lets them just like develop young guys and tank a little bit and actually build something. And that's maybe starting to actually happen because Drew Eubanks, bye-bye. Take a seat. Let's see what this kid can do. We know Eubanks has no offensive game. This kid has a lot of finishes, man. He either floaters with either hand, spinning over either shoulder, nice pick and roll combo, nice pick and pop combo on a team with just a bunch of guards who want to run that stuff, right? Monk and Westbrook and whatnot. So it's a pretty good fit for him to keep getting buckets. And he just delivered buckets in some really tough matchups at Houston. Excellent line against Miami and the Twin Towers. They were starting there. Now you get a Pacers team that in the last 15 is allowing the second most points per game and rebounds to center. Could consider the rebounds here as an ad. The double-double is definitely live at like 4-1. But I mean, the Kings also giving up the most points to centers, but Raynaud, from what I've read, is playing better defense than Eubanks was. I mean, 7-1, good range, good feet, and it's more about the offensive game. And if Keegan Murray does not play, I think the rebounds are definitely a good add here because he's second most rebound chances per game in these last three, and Raynaud has the most, 12.7. And you tell me, my Belgian friend, am I pronouncing that wrong in terms of the French?
I was gonna let it slide for now because I know all the Americans who are hearing you going, "Hey, nice pronunciation, bud," but it's Raynaud, Raynaud for all y'all out here in America. But hey, man, come on, these foreign names are tough. I need a break every now and again when I'm saying, I'm mispronouncing Thomas Isulo over there in Memphis. But I think this dude is like, yes, sure, please more Maxime Raynaud, more of this, less of everything we've been seeing of Chicago Bulls West, like we've said. Like, let's get this tank going. Somebody just put Vivek in a room and entertain him, something like that, because we can't have him meddling anymore. Sacramento's too good of a fan base, man. It's too fun to go to those games. But either way, let's get to this. Stay in this game here. We are in Indy, obviously, and Bennedict Mathurin's playing against a team that has no rim protection. God bless Raynaud and his abilities on offense. Do not still see him as someone that you want to stick down there and just be like, yeah, you'll handle guys flying at you like Bennedict Mathurin, who should get 7 to 8 to 9 free throw attempts in this game. And that's really what it comes down to for me with him this season so far since he's been back. He came out, out of a cannon, obviously, because he was like, I haven't played basketball in a month or two, and just started firing in, taking 25 shots in 25 minutes. Now he's back up to full. And then he had a really tough stretch where it was like they were actually like close in these games. There was like a 5-game stretch where they either won or lost within 10 points, which is something they hadn't been doing for a 5-game stretch in a while. And he wasn't really taking as many shots. He was in the 13, 15 range. And things were like still going well for them as guys started to come back. Now you still see like the rotations have sort of evened out. I think mid-20s, and if they're in a game, that's a big part of this. If they are close now, he's going to be out there, and he's going to be staying out there for those closing minutes, getting anywhere upwards of 35 to 37, 38 minutes. And when there is nobody who can really stop him at the rim, that's when you really like it. He's also going to be able to score off of the pull-up as well. All that stuff inside the paint. This is a bottom 5 paint team. We know that there's really not much protection and hasn't been any. And then if you talk about free throws as well, this team is giving up the 9th most free throws in their last 7 games. They're actually giving up the 3rd most free throw attempts. And that's just a huge part. What I'm looking for with Benny Matz is, does this team defend transition? Nope, they're bottom 10 there. Do they defend free throws? Nope, bottom 5 there. And do they defend the paint? Nope, bottom 5 there. All right, cool. Give me Bennedict Mathurin. If he doesn't have to make 4 threes, then I love him to get his points.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, ultra aggressive attacking the rim. And I think Carlisle, when he does want to bench him, it's because of the defense. And it's just there's not a lot threatening you here. Despite Zach LaVine's big game, I don't think the Kings wings are gonna force him to the bench there. Jose Alvarado and the Pels hosting the Spurs. And he might come off the bench here. So that's why this number is down. That's why you're getting slight plus money on it. But I think the role is still solid, and there's definitely a scenario where he just banishes McGowan's, who's the nominal starter, to the bench. You look at the last game, 30 minutes for Alvarado. He was +8, starter was -11. This is a situation where the Pels are going to try to get frisky with the Spurs team that, again, is looking ahead towards the Cup. Maybe Steph Castle's first game back here, but he'll be on the starters, right? And that kind of feeds into the theory that McGowan's is going to struggle, and then off comes Alvarado, spark plug off the bench. And since Jordan Poole's been out, it's obviously a huge uptick in usage, 19% versus 13%, 7 more minutes per game. Without Zion, he's actually, of course he's scoring more, but the efficiency is way, way up, which is crazy. He's shooting 49 and 45% in games without Zion Williamson. And the matchup against the Spurs is about the 3-point line, right? It's about these guys who are willing to chuck, and he's been hot lately from deep. Also been driving a lot. He's 2nd in total passes, potential assists, 3rd in drives, and he's the highest pass rate on the Pelicans off his drives in the last 5 games. So that gets you assists on 3-point shots. There's a chance Herb Jones plays, and I guess that would be a concern, but last matchup with the Spurs, Alvarado went for 8, 2, and 5 in just 17 minutes because Herb played 38. And if Herb does not play, that's a lot of minutes to go around for sure. He's implied -150 to get 3 dimes. So let's just tack on 8 plus points on that and call it a day.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with it. I mean, I think Herb Jones comes in and that just screws things up for Sadiq Bey more than anybody. So that's probably where those shots, I know that's where those minutes go. But I also don't know how many Herb is going to play anyway if he does come back after missing a few weeks. So yeah, this dude's been hot, man. He's still a good look here. I was going to come to him as well for this one, but you already are on it, and I agree entirely. So let me go to Dylan Harper. I love Dylan Harper, man. This dude's really, really, really good. He's just so smart. This has to be like the highest IQ rookie class I can remember in a minute, because a lot of these dudes already do not look like rookies, including this guy. But Stephon Castle's back. I don't know what that means for minutes for Stephon Castle. I do think that's going to mean a little bit less for guys like Champagny, Keldon Johnson, even Jeremy Sohan, a little bit more than Dylan Harper. Like, I think he's locked in at 22 minutes. So I think we're going to get a little bit of a depressed number on his rebounds and assists, because I love his assists at 3.5. They're juiced a ton. But if you take the rebounds, those are 2.5 as well. This is a wonderful matchup for everything. What do you want to get against the Pelicans? Would you like to rebound? Would you like to assist? You can score off the pull up. but also they're bottom 5 against the spot up. So really whatever you would like to do against them is at your disposal. And I think Dylan Harper's going to be able to sort of do everything else. He's actually averaging 9 assists per 36 minutes on the floor with De'Aaron Fox this season. That's crazy with De'Aaron Fox. And Fox is up at 7.5 assists per 36, 7.8 in that range. So it's not the same. They're not getting the same amount of minutes, and they're not on the floor together all of the time. But that tells me something, because, I mean, when Fox is off the floor, he's still at that basically same number. Like, it's actually 7.5, slightly less. It seems like he's looking for De'Aaron Fox or someone like that a little bit more. But just going to love him to be able to get 22. He should see that. There's still a world in which he sees upwards of 28 because of a blowout, and wanting to get him a little bit more burn, as he's already had 4 or 5 games under his belt now since coming back from injury. This would be the game where you start to go, oh, okay, Rook against an awful defense. His minutes have been trending upward anyway. Even though Stephon Castle's back, that hopefully just helps us with the depressed line. And if this thing gets out of control quick, then the Dylan Harpers of the world are going to be controlling the game at the end.
Yeah. Well, Castle not officially in, but some books are actually waiting on that news. It looks like, I just checked, actually, this is at plus 104 at one book for Dylan Harper to go over that, but only one book has that line up, because I think it's so dependent on the Castle news. So, but I think we're both in agreement that if Castle comes back, it's kind of just like, get him a little bit of burn. Like, let's not give him high usage again. Cup on Wednesday. Let's just like get him out there, see where his wins at, and probably let Harper handle a lot more of the usage in this particular matchup.
Yeah. The news that came out that caused the books to put Castle's numbers up was Castle being interviewed at shoot around going, yeah, I'm going to play. Okay. So but still, it's actually not entirely up to him, believe it or not. So it would actually be better to hear the head coach, or say the training staff, or somebody like that say it. But either way, I would plan on Castle playing. And to that point, I'll just say, I would wait for the official news, because the official news that Castle's playing should immediately have an overreaction to depress Dylan Harper's line, move his stuff down, and then you can bet it there if you'd like to wait for that. But either way, I'm good with his stuff today. And that is all the time that we have for you guys in this one. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel, coming back to you, as we say, each and every weekday here. Also going to have NFL this week per usual. So till we see y'all next, happy betting.